Brett King is the prolific author of 6 books, the founder of payment app Moven, and via his Breaking Banks podcast, has been talking about the disruption of money since well before the crypto boom. As his latest book demonstrates, the breadth of his interests and understanding of the digital transformation of society now extends far beyond money. The Rise of Technosocialism, which Brett co-wrote with Dr. Richard Petty, tackles the biggest challenges facing society, from inequality and the job disruption arising from artificial intelligence to climate change and mass migration. It calls on us to work together to forge a world in which digital technology, rather than being the bogeyman that Hollywood portrays it as, becomes a solution to a more harmonious society. Brett, your book is a provocative title, this new one, and Technosocialism. Do you get any pushback? Do you expect to get some pushback? I mean, the anarcho-capitalists of the crypto space might have an issue with the second part of that title.
Definitely getting pushback, but that was part of the reason for picking the title. You know, like Sheila nailed it. There's deficiencies in the way we organize economics and capitalism and all of that today. Inequality is a proof point of that. But this is not your grandfather's socialism. This is really where we are retuning the economy so it better serves all citizens rather than just the richest, 1% of citizens. So is it really socialism when we can provide universal basic services to every citizen at a fraction of the cost of today's government? You know, that's really the question. Would you be opposed to it if we could afford to do that cheaper? And that's really, is part of what the book addresses.
So I suppose I would just have one question about that, because, socialism, at least, the sort of extreme version of it, communism, wherever we go with that, like, it implies collective ownership.
Right.
And I often feel like, certainly in the crypto space, this sort of my property is mine, right? And it doesn't mean that there's all these sort of collaborative public good ideas that flow through it, but it's sort of, I still see a tenet of lots of crypto thinking being this ownership element, my property, right? Do you foresee, and we'll go deeper into this a little bit, can you just break that down a little bit? Do you foresee a world of sort of shared ownership, or is there still this private property component to your vision?
There's definitely some components of society which will work better as shared ownership structures. I guess it comes back to sort of the core intent of the economy, or how we measure the economy. Economists use things like GDP and market returns and, employment rates, to measure the success of an economy. And by that measure, the US has been the most successful economy the world's seen to date. But if you measure it in terms of the economy's ability to take care of the basic health and happiness of its citizens, then, you could argue with the gross inequality we have today that the US economy is a failure. And so with highly automated societies, which we're moving to with artificial intelligence and robotics, we can do things, for example, like reduce the cost of the total healthcare system down to 30% of what it is today, or a 70% reduction. So, in doing so, you make healthcare very accessible to the entire citizenry, but you do so at a fraction of the cost of today's system. It's those types of levers. There is a time, I think, in the future where all of these sort of basic services, access to housing, food, education, healthcare, should be able to be provided by the system at very low cost.